Taking mushrooms. Did you know this?
What?
Yes.
What do you mean? What are you doing?
I'm just taking a scoopful of mushrooms every day
in
my coffee. Lion's mane, cordyceps. Cordyceps was the kind that in The Last of Us, that show, took over and turned everybody into zombie.
So aren't you a little nervous about?
Yeah, a little bit, but that might be an improvement over my current state of being. And reishi are in there too. What
is the point of all of this?
The point of all of this is for me, as an elderly man, or as someone in the upper reaches of the Middle Ages, I am trying to encourage neuroplasticity. And there is some research that says that lion's mane and these other mushrooms help increase neuroplasticity. Yes. Other mushrooms also apparently increase neuroplasticity. I mean, the one that's actually been studied to some degree is the psilocybin that actually does increase your neuroplasticity.
Mascara or something?
Amanita muscara also. That is the mushroom chocolate that I found Jack wandering around with a couple of weeks ago.
Where do you buy stuff like that? Is it
Anywhere.
Legal?
I think Amanita muscara is legal in some places.
Wow.
Yeah, you can just go to the head shop, of which there are many.
And you can get trippy mushrooms?
Yeah, but you got to be careful with the Amanitas. From what I understand from doing some research, since I found some in my son's pocket.
Did you ask him how it was?
How
was the trip?
I don't know. I didn't want to encourage.
You shouldn't have done that, but since you did, was it good? I mean,
since you did, you got any more of those chocolates kicking around in your room?
It's such a weird time, man. When I was in high school and I was able to get mushrooms, it was the most exotic, exhilarating, oh my God, I am breaking so many norms in my life right now,
Yeah.
And that made it twice as exciting.
Of course. It's the forbidden fruits.
Yeah.
Fruit of the mushroom.
And on top of it, I was at this conservative, Baptist, basically not Baptist, but super Christian Bible hugging school where you couldn't even grow your hair longer than your collar. And here I was sneaking around.
You're going to say longer than your cock.
Nothing's longer than that. So now you can buy it. That was my dream as a high schooler.
Right.
To have my own mushroom supply.
So I think I said last show, I have more drugs here now than I ever had when I was doing drugs.
Yeah.
Because I've been seizing drugs from various kids over the years. And of course, my own foibles going and buying bags of weed at dispensaries in Massachusetts right before I quit everything back in 2019. My son Dimitri up there at Stonianta is taking a course in the history of weed.
Really?
It's cannabis something or other. Anyway.
That's probably interesting.
Like most courses, he's not doing any work in it. So my wife, one of his assignments this past week was to make a poster about weed culture. Now, he is just... he's just in drinking culture. That's his thing. So he doesn't want to do the poster. So, my wife, who knows nothing about weed culture, sits down,
smokes a joint.
She decides she's going to do the poster for him. So, but it's a very sort of Gen X, millennial sort of understanding of what weed culture is. There's Jerry Garcia in there. There's Cheech and Chong in there. There's High Times magazine. And I don't know if any of this stuff is relevant to modern day weed culture, right?
You're going to know right away just from the references that somebody's mom did it.
So she finds some rapper, I guess, who smokes weed, okay, pick any random one, right? And throws it in there. And then she's like, hey, we can make this thing 3D. Do you have any weed we can add to the poster? So I'm like, I'll be right back. And I guess I go to the garage. I get my little bag of 5-year-old weed that if you even touch it, it crumbles, And the gummy that my friend gave me for staying over at the house, and the gummies that I got from the bud tender in Huntington as free samples. And I lay all this out on the kitchen table. I'm like, take your pick.
Take it.
And I thought, how weirdly ironic and bizarre is it that
Yeah.
I have this many drugs
It is.
in my house when I don't actually do any drugs?
Yeah, it's weird. It's the same thing in my house. There's so much alcohol. We don't have drugs and stuff. My kids are only the oldest is 13. So
Right.
I'm sure the drugs will come in. And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about two middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Nat X.
And I'm Mike R.
And boy, do we have a show for you.
Boy, do we.
Today on RMA, it's time to discuss what's on everybody's mind.
Ooh, what's that?
Ozempic. You know, we're going to talk about Ozempic and the uproar, the hubbub, the kerfuffle going on in the addiction and recovery community, talking about, can Ozempic curb your appetite for drugs and
Or alcohol. Yes.
or both?
Yeah.
All this and more today on a very special edition of RMA.
Hey.
And welcome back to the show. The bell has rung. So before, when we're talking, guys, it's like in a wrestling match when
That
the
bell?
kids are do. That's the bell. And now the bell is rung, and the match has started.
All right. You're just filling up space now with words.
Yeah. I got wrestling on my mind too. WrestleMania season is upon us.
When?
Now, this is WrestleMania season.
When is the blessed event?
WrestleMania, the holiest day on the Christian calendar, has become actually like 2 days. They do a 2-day event. I think it's April 4th and 5th or 5th and 6th. I can't remember exactly, but I'm very excited for this.
Are you?
It's like a season finale of Days of Our Lives, you know.
I keep threatening that I'm going to get Ben to sit down and watch it, and then I forget.
Days of Our Lives?
No, wrestling.
Oh.
I don't know, like, if he has the attention span to watch wrestling.
You
It's just
actually want
disturbing.
him to watch it.
I do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
Okay.
You do. That's what I was surprised that you would encourage this. My children stopped watching wrestling with me because they're sick of me talking about it.
Oh, so now it's just you.
Yeah, kind of. But on the big events, I could still get them to sit near me.
Well, speaking of big events,
Yes.
you had a big event this past weekend, did you?
Yes.
You came out of retirement to do a performance, did you not?
Right. So as many of you may know, we had something called Palm Sunday, which is the penultimate Sunday before...
The penultimate Sunday.
It's the penultimate Sunday in the Easter season. So Palm Sunday, some churches celebrate it, some don't as much, but we do. And this year, the musical director was out because she had a baby, and there was a fill-in in the last 3 weeks. And this fill-in got a really great idea to do songs from Godspell and write a little script for the kids in between the songs for an Easter pageant.
Sorry.
So I was in it. And I actually reprised my role from college where you sing the John the Baptist comes into the back of the room, the auditorium, and sings, which I'm not going to do on the show, the Prepare Ye song. But this time, my son Max, he sang Call and Answer.
Okay.
So I, a cappella, sang the beginning of Prepare Ye, the beginning of Godspell. And then my son sang it back to me. We sang together. Band kicks in, which was me. I also had my Gibson Les Paul custom Silver Burst out.
Were you the whole band, or
No.
was there other? Did you have a drum?
I was just playing for a
Kit.
little color. I had an acoustic guitarist who's excellent, and he really, him and the piano player covered the most. Now, we didn't do like a drum set or anything. It was kind of just like
Not that kind of worship.
Yeah, it was just an abridged version, but it was so great. It was so much fun, and it was just a really proud moment for me to be able to do that with Max, and something that was really special to me that I did in my life, and now he is sort of a part of it in that way. So that was so much fun, and celebrating, even though it was super stressful.
Did you rip off a good solo?
I did. And what was funny about
Picturing Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want my electric guitar. I'm like, guys, this is church. And this is me talking to the pastor. And he was like, you got to bring your electric guitar. You got to rip a solo or something. I said, Jeff, man, this is like church, it's kind of not that vibe. And he goes, don't worry about it. It'll be fun. So there was a couple of the songs where they're like, okay, go. And they just, I played a little stupid solo. And they thought it was funny. But yeah, it was a good weekend. It was a lot of fun. I'm trying to do more relaxing on the weekend if I can.
Yeah, how's that going?
Not great because things come up. Like we went to an Islanders game, which is a hockey team locally, on Saturday.
I
Because
think most people probably know who the Islanders are.
you do, yes.
Yeah.
Hockey is a game. So it's a sport, right? So they have sticks and it's on ice. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah, I just talked a lot. So.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm trying to find like
running out of
relevant
stuff.
things because you're like, no, nobody ever plays rock in church. So of course I'm looking for,
Well,
rock in church, right? And like I could have
Not our church.
I could have been prepared for this show.
Prepare ye.
But-
Well, Shelter Rock Church, I know, does. There's a lot of churches that have like a little more youthful rock band stuff going. We are not one of those.
No. Okay. Well, I was trying to find Jesus Christ Superstar on YouTube, but fuck that. Excuse me,
YouTube.
Jesus. Imagine somebody questioning your sobriety.
No.
And you send them days, weeks, or even months worth of reports dealing with your progress.
No, I can't.
I would call that narcissism. perhaps?
Narcissism. Gaslighting. What are the other pop terms?
Look at all my sobriety. Sorry. Well, with SoberLink, you can do just that.
Yes.
Yes, we have new copy to make fun of. SoberLink's remote alcohol monitoring system allows you to reinforce patterns of trust with those who matter most, or the occasional naysayer.
Those naysayers.
Here's why it's a game changer. Scheduled tests become part of your new routine, showing consistency in your efforts. So, just like you take a shit every day,
Yep.
you can use SoberLink every day.
I love that.
Maybe at the same time.
That's amazing.
Built-in facial recognition ensures that each test is unmistakably yours.
Uh-huh.
Tamper sensors safeguard any attempts to cheat the system.
Don't try and cheat the system, guys.
Isn't that what addiction's
right
all
thing.
about? It's cheating the system.
It's the whole motivating factor.
The real magic,
What is it?
advanced reporting. This feature shares your progress instantly with detailed, easy-to-read reports sent directly to your loved ones. It's not just about proving you're sober. It's about expanding the surveillance state. No, I'm sorry. It's about sharing your success, establishing patterns of trust, and dispelling doubts with hard evidence. If you're not doing anything wrong, how could you possibly object?
Exactly.
The guys know, you guys know, we only back what we believe.
You're damn right.
They wrote that for us.
Well, because
That's
it's
fun.
true. They wrote it, but
And
it's
this
true.
system is the real deal.
It is.
Real deal. Visit www.soberlink.com/middle-ages to sign up and receive $50 off a device. So I reached out to SoberLink
Yes.
after ignoring them for weeks.
I'm sorry, SoberLink.
And I was like, by the way, how many of these freaking things have people bought through our podcast?
Yeah.
And she said there were two interesting things. The first was that almost all of the people that requested information about SoberLink through our platform also requested information about their divorce program,
Right?
their divorce monitoring program.
Yeah, they
or
have
something.
some divorce product.
So I don't know what that says about our audience, but whatever. And then
yeah, they were very happy with our production in the divorce niche.
And then the other thing she said was that we are like their best podcast producer in terms of sales closed, which means, one, we're charging them way too small amount of money for the fact that we're selling so many devices.
They advertise all over the place.
Yeah.
How can we be
And
the
two,
leading?
yeah, who the fuck?
How is that possible?
Is our audience just more alcoholic than other podcasts?
No, but they're more interested in showing off how sober they are to their family.
Maybe so. Maybe we're just encouraging recovery all over the place.
Or maybe we're just being incorrigible.
Yes. Encourageable, encouraging.
SoberLink. I think, in that email I wrote to Samantha, who's the person over there that we deal with, about I want to get like testimonials. I think that would be
she
great.
sent them too, and I
Did
just
she?
couldn't- I
Okay,
can't
next time.
find them.
Next time we'll do this because I told
I'm sure you guys are waiting with bated breath to listen to a longer advertisement.
we spoke about the great G Money Smooth's experience with SoberLink, and that's sort of what got us here. And I said, the people are sick of hearing how great Grant is doing. It's like at some point, like, yeah, we get it, Grant, you're great.
Yeah. They must have another customer.
Yeah, there's got to be someone else who's had the same results as Grant. SoberLink sounds like it would be really helpful. When I was at a certain point in my sobriety where I didn't have the law kind of like looking over my shoulder, but I still wanted to show my family, I would have definitely wanted to use one of these.
Yeah. I mean, they they keep wanting to pay us in advance through the end of the year, and I'm like, don't do that. We never know from week to week if we're actually going to exist by the end of the year. So I don't want to have to be in the position where I'm refunding SoberLink money.
Yeah.
You know
well,
what I
we
mean?
wouldn't. We would close shop and just turn our phones off.
Well, right. I didn't want to say that. So I, you folks out there may have noticed that the podcast is somewhat irregularly appearing in your feed these days, and I lay a lot of the blame for that on
me, right?
Nat.
No,
yes. No. I mean, I've been traveling a lot for work last couple of months. It's been a really hairy first quarter, I guess is the term that they use in the business world. A lot of travel, a lot of Zoom mediations and things that keep me nailed to the computer on Tuesdays. And, I want to apologize to the audience, but, I have to pay bills, keep the lights on. I have kids in college and shit. So unfortunately work has to come first. But I went to some conference, man, last week in Texas. And that's, number one, it's in Texas, which, as a New Yorker, I have a strange relationship with the state of Texas. I like Texans.
Yeah.
I invariably like all of the Texans I meet because they're like unique, right? They're like New Yorkers, but totally different.
Yeah.
But they have a thing, right? They're not like just, boring. Yeah. They're definitely
they're interesting.
They're
I
interesting
have
people.
Cousins in Houston.
Do you? Mm-hmm. You don't call it Houston?
Houston. I go.
No. But that said, I didn't meet any Texans this trip because we were at a resort outside of San Antonio, and I flew in like Friday, and I came back on Wednesday, and every minute was accounted for. It was one of those conferences where I couldn't. And Kevin, if you're listening, that's why I didn't call you. So I apologize because I have a friend in San Antonio. But next time. So the first night you get there, I go to this thing every year, and it's in a different place every year.
It's insurance or a law?
It's
or both.
Utility related, let's say.
Okay.
Gas specifically. So, yeah, not that kind of gas. But anyway, natural.
Natural gas.
So, so the weather's terrible, so everyone's stuck inside. And what do you think that leads to?
Lots of drinking. Spin the bottle even.
Bunch of gas company attorneys.
Hot.
Yeah. So every year they have a reception on Sunday when you get there. And some years those things are very sort of mild affairs. And then some years there's just like, you ever notice you go to some parties and they just don't take off, and then the other years they take the fuck off.
Goes crazy.
Everybody goes nuts.
Yep.
This was one of those. So I think everybody was a little pent up. It was also St. Patrick's Day. So
right. We didn't have a podcast before St. Patrick's Day.
We did not.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Oh,
wait. What?
No, I'll get to that picture of you on the internet sitting there with a beer.
Oh, yes.
Beer
we have to discuss this. Yes, the beer.
But I could not believe like the people were, I duck out of those receptions like the minute the bell rings, like I'm gone. You know, apparently people stayed later, and there was a not an insignificant number of people who now know that I don't drink, and who are convinced that they need to tell me frequently how much they don't drink while they're holding like a double scotch.
I never
in their
drink.
hands.
Yeah, I hate it too.
So I could pick out a couple of people in that crowd who I suspect might end up in our audience in a couple of years, or it could go worse for them. But
hopefully all of them. We need more.
I'm looking at these guys, and these are guys that, like, some of them I pay money to do work for us, and I think to myself, if you're getting this fucked up, like on a random, Sunday night, like, how are you like during the week? Like, how is this impacting your work?
Yeah.
You ever think like that, or wonder if people thought that about you?
Well, I was always convinced nobody knew I was an alcoholic, so I didn't think about it at all because I had everybody fooled. No, but I knew I would lie to myself like so many of us, because I was drinking every day, though. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I binged on the weekend and then felt bad all week because I kept drinking.
See, you were the kind of alcoholic, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know a lot of folks like this who would rarely like drink in public to excess.
Correct.
Just have one or two, but then like, sneaking off into the garage and really nailing it there, right?
Yeah.
So you have that plausible deniability. Like, I don't have a drinking problem. You see me when we go out. I only have a beer or two, right?
Yeah, because I had the airplane bottles of whatever. that, so I would nurse a drink or say, oh, no, I'm not drinking tonight. I'll just have water. Meanwhile, I've been drinking since 9 a.m. or something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think people, when they get in these situations when the bar is open and they're at a conference, they feel like the normal rules just don't apply. And I think part of the thing is, like, it used to be I was always drinking with everybody. So I would never, like, think, oh, this guy's a drunk. He can't do his job right, because I was also one, right? But then what was really interesting is you roll it over and there's another reception the next night. And you saw who was hitting it heavy the night before. And if they're hitting it heavy the second night in a row, then I start to think, like, maybe there's something going on here. Now, who am I to take other people's inventory, right? I mean,
You're a podcast host.
I'm a podcast host, but I observe now, and
we're just watching.
And I would say out of that whole crowd of 200 people that attended this conference, there were maybe 3 people that didn't drink.
Really?
Yeah. And I knew who they were.
You did, yeah. You figured them out.
Yeah.
Well, people get nervous, right, at these work conferences. So on top of it, there's an underlying anxiety. You're meeting people you work with, business partners, clients.
Do you think people are, like, over drinking to?
It's probably a combination.
Over the social anxiety?
Yeah, it's probably guys or girls or women who get away from their family, for the weekend. So they're already like, all right, this is my chance. On top of it, they're meeting some important client or someone they worked with that they're nervous. And it just comes together in a fusion of alcohol-fueled craziness.
I don't know. It's fascinating from a sociological standpoint to just sort of observe how these things go.
So what did you observe?
I observed a lot of drunken behavior. I was harangued by these 2 attorneys from Washington State who, I was having a discussion with some guy who wasn't drinking. And these 2 guys come over and pulled me away because they wanted to ask me, like, to recommend a certain, expert for a case that they're working on. And they were so plastered, they weren't really making any sense. And they were gesticulating wildly and being very, like, emphasizing things that didn't need to be emphasized. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are loud.
They're getting into it, whatever they're talking.
And I don't know, maybe because the woman that they hired to play music on the guitar was also doing a rendition of Sweet Child of Mine in a Patsy Cline way.
Interesting.
It was sort of interesting. But anyway, I don't know. So by the time that the conference was over, and then we all went to dinner the third night, and that is when people start transitioning back to, like, their normal lives. They maybe will have 1 or 2 drinks at dinner instead of, like, 10.
Like, I got to get my shit together. I'm going home.
Yeah, right. I got to go to the airport, whatever. The next day. But I was just so done with talking to drunk people. Like, I just could not do it anymore. It was so annoying.
It's exhausting.
Or hungover people who are overcompensating by trying to pretend that they're really sprightly and friendly, and because that they're hurting so bad that they just want to crawl under a rock.
There's bags under their eyes. It looks like ugh.
And I'm not judging because I was there, but it's like, it's so weird to see it now, and from the outside, it's almost as if, like, I've burst through a hologram or something, and I'm standing on outside, and I'm watching it like I'm in a different dimension or something.
It's weird because it is like a parallel universe. It's interesting. My cousin, who is the mother of the Sweet 16 person, actually, and I'm not giving your name out if you're listening, so don't worry. I just thought of that. Like, I didn't ask her if I could speak about it, but no one out there knows who she is. But she's recently decided to stop drinking, and so I was really excited for her, and I tried not to overly, like, say, you have to do this or your life is in danger. You're going to, like, I was just kind of I stood back, and I was like, if she needs more advice or help, I'm here for her, but I'm not going to overly, like, push a program or something like that. And so I did some encouragement. I sent her the book, Naked Mind, that we send everybody, because she's got that, I think she's the perfect target audience for that. Long story short, it's been a couple of months, and I saw her at the Sweet 16, and I said, she kind of was like, not drinking. And I'm like, that's amazing. Doesn't it feel great? And she's like, I know. I'm like, that's the secret.
Yes.
That people don't realize is your life gets more fun, not less.
You have to break on through to the other side, as Jim Morrison said.
Break on through.
But there is that period of intense,
It gets rough.
irritation and where you just question whether or not what you're doing is the right thing. And the thing is, as people who suffer from alcohol use disorder, we like things done immediately. We want to fix everything quickly. We want to just fix and move on. And learning how to be patient, I think, is one of the most important things you can learn in recovery, that things don't change overnight. And it took you a long time to get to the place where you're at, and it's going to take you a little bit of time to get out of it.
Yeah, if you can push through. It's the same thing I was telling my son Noah about the guitar playing. When he first started, I'm like, listen, it's going to suck for a bit. Your finger's going to hurt. You're not going to be able to do it. Trust me. Just keep practicing. Keep doing it no matter what, because you're going to see that in a few weeks, maybe a month, you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be easy.
Wow.
And it happened. So about 4 weeks ago, he was playing, and I sort of noticed, like, he just crossed over that line where now you can see it. He's past that point of like discomfort, and now he can actually practice and play. And he's getting way into it. But it's like just pushing through, like training your brain. Think of it as like training your brain to do something differently.
Yes.
And that takes some, repetition. It takes a little bit of time, some discomfort. But when you finally break through, you can play Stairway to Heaven.
I was just playing that the other day.
He can actually play Stairway to Heaven.
Oh.
Like he can play it.
Can you play it?
Yes. Well, I taught him.
We should do a triple.
Yeah.
We should all play Stairway to Heaven.
Not only that, I'm playing it in church. The pastor wrote a parody lyrics to Stairway to Heaven and to promote the thrift fair coming up. And so he asked me, like, can you do Stairway to Heaven? And I'm like, 100%. I've been doing it since high school. So that's one of those songs that it's like a rite of passage. So I'm very excited that he's playing the greatest song ever written.
Oh, you think?
Well, it's the number one song in everybody's minds.
The rock countdown. Remember they used to do the rock countdown, and the question at the end would always be like, is it Freebird or Stairway to Heaven?
I got to say, it's either Stairway, Bohemian Rhapsody, or Freebird.
I would pick Truckin', but that's me.
Truckin'. Dee-dee-dee. What are we talking about today? Because
we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We can get there, but we're not there yet. Because I want to find out why I found a picture of you on the internet drinking a Guinness on St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, that fucker. I'm sitting there in Texas, like dodging the drunks, and I pull up the internet, and your neighbor has posted a picture of you sitting with a big fat Guinness in front of you, and I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Has he started drinking and not told me?
So there was a picture circulating on the socials with me and what looks like a tall, cold glass of Guinness. Now, I didn't even, what's funny is I didn't even think to myself, someone will think I'm drinking because I just did it.
Right.
And my neighbor, who's Irish, he's also a great cook. I've talked about him before. And he was doing one of his famous St. Patrick's Day meals, which he makes corned beef and cabbage, but it actually tastes good.
As opposed to most people?
Yeah.
Yes.
The cabbage has flavor, and the kids got together. It was nice. And
cabbage has flavor, and the kids are together.
And the kids are together.
Yeah. Sounds like a blissful St. Patrick's Day.
It's on the routers where the password is. Okay.
What? Who are you texting?
This guy in Newburgh.
Okay.
Needs the internet. So basically, he knows I don't drink. He's one of the first neighbors we met when I was getting sober.
Right.
That we were like getting to know him. Noah and his daughter are the same age. And so I've been turning down alcohol at his house for, 10 years or something. No, it can't be 10 years because I've only been sober 6 years. In any case.
It's been 6 years.
6 years. Feels like 100. So finally, we've been talking like, oh, did you hear there's Guinness 00? And we couldn't find it. And he kept trying to find it for me. He would go to the beer distributor when we go over. So finally, he says, looky what I've got. Guinness 00. Boom. And I was like, oh. I said, okay, great. And he puts a little black currant syrup or something in it. So it's a little sweet.
Huh.
And it was, kind of goes against some of what I believe in as far as
when in Rome, though.
But yeah, I sort of did it to test partially I wanted to taste Guinness again just to see how close my memory was to it. And I don't know. I just went for it. And then, no big whoop. I had alcohol-free Guinness.
Did you have 2 of them?
I did. And it was funny because he knew he did something good, or he finally found the drink we've been talking about all these years, someday if there's a 0-0. And then he, fill up another one. And I'm like, okay, I got to drink this, because it's not exactly refreshing.
No.
I don't know if you've had a Guinness, but
yes,
it's not refreshing. It's kind of so finally I was like, how am I going to tell him to stop giving me more of these? I'm sure he doesn't want to drink them,
Right.
And so I know finally I was like, hey, he's going to fill up my glass. And I said, you got any of that Mexican Coke?
That's what I always go for after a couple beers is Mexican Coke.
I said, you don't have any of those, do you? And he says, yeah, I got one of those. So I got to switch out for my
Coca-Cola. You mean Coca-Cola?
Yes, Coca-Cola. Okay. And, he was all out of the Colombian Coke. So that was good. And it did not make me want to drink. It doesn't make me think, oh, I want one with alcohol.
Right.
Because that's one of the things people say about, non-alcoholic beer. It's like, oh, if you drink that, you get back into the habit of tasting it, and then you're more likely to drink an alcoholic version. I didn't experience that.
Yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary, but that was not my experience. So was that the first non-alcoholic beer that you have had since you've been sober?
I've definitely had another one. I'm having trouble remembering, but I think I did. I think I had one of those Heineken Zeros at some point.
Okay.
It was gross.
Yeah. And when you drank it, you had you had some trepidation?
Yeah, because it's been part of my philosophy on recovery is I don't do non-alcoholic beer.
Right.
That was just one of my things. It was one of my internal rules I've always had.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't have a lot of evidence to support why it's a good thing, for me, it felt like it wasn't the thing to do.
Yeah. At this conference I was at, they had Heineken Zero, but I didn't want one because I wanted to eat more food, and I felt like it would fill me up. So it was pretty easy. It's pretty easy to turn down non-alcoholic beer, I find.
Yeah. Well, it's not filled with flavor, that's why.
Well, I've had the Guinness, and I have to say I don't think it's that good.
Yeah, well, it tastes like Guinness. It tastes like what I remember.
It tastes like a really thin
Guinness Light.
Guinness Light.
Yeah. Well, that's the good news is I don't remember what Guinness tastes like. So to me, that was as Guinness as it gets.
I had a couple of NA beers over the last couple of months just because they were in my fridge, and I was looking for something to drink, and we had that week of warm weather. So I had the barbecue going out back, and I was like, all right, I had some weird memory trigger, and I was like, all right, let me drink an NA beer while I'm grilling this meat. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and I was like, okay.
Did it all work together to bring back that nostalgic feeling?
Yeah, it brought back the nostalgia without bringing back the hangover or the desire to drink the rest of the non-alcoholic beers.
Or the guilt. And
no guilt. Oh. My guilt was that I overcooked the chicken. I felt guilty about that.
Well, that's unforgivable. But at least it wasn't fish. So I'd like to know what the Monksters think about this. We haven't really had a discussion. You can go to Recovery in the Middle Ages. No, you can go to patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages. Support the show. There's a $3 tier, I think, that you get onto the Discord where we have a lot of the debates and the discussions and the support, and we're having a great time. Join us there. Or on the Facebook group, Recovery in the Middle Ages on Facebook. I'd love to hear what the general opinion of the Monksters is. Are we a group that drinks non-alcoholic beverages, or are we a group that thinks it's, goes against everything we believe in type of thing?
Or is there some room for nuance?
Is there nuance? Write to us at Mike or at middleagesrecovery.com. Let us know what's your opinion on non-alcoholic beer or wine.
Or wine.
Sometimes I've seen tequila that's non-alcoholic.
Yeah,
I don't understand this.
That at all. I mean, you and I drank the non-alcoholic
the wine
Sauvignon Blanc here.
Yeah,
they still have it at Whole Foods. I have yet to buy another bottle. I just don't see the point.
It doesn't do it for me.
It just gave me heartburn.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to this new. For all of you non-alcoholic soft drink connoisseurs. There's a new Coca-Cola which it's like raspberry spiced. So it's
Really?
just basically raspberry Coke.
Isn't that shit like full of sugar, man?
Yeah, it's horrible for you.
I can't go over to sugar. Like, to me, like a big advantage of not drinking alcoholic beverages is that I'm not taking in all of these unnecessary calories, and unhealthy things into my body,
chemicals.
And I look at the back of one of these Cokes, and it's like 170 calories or something. I'm like, fuck, that's like more than a beer. I don't know. I guess it's better than drinking booze.
Once in a while. Like I can't drink soda every day, and I don't, but I enjoy it.
Do you drink coffee every day?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't go a day without coffee.
Right.
I am an addict.
Yes.
Of coffee.
Yes. All right. So what do you want to do?
Well, today we've got, we're discussing the Ozempic.
We're just going to roll right into it, or you want to take a break?
Why don't we take a break, and we'll be right back after these words.
All right, he's lowered his A1C and stuff.
Ozempic, we're back, and we're here to discuss the latest breakthroughs in anecdotal evidence.
You know what? I think as an initial entree into this topic, we should take a step back and take a quick look at the debate in the recovery community about using medications as a tool for recovering from alcohol dependency. MAT.
Are you down with MAT?
I mean, there's lots of different perspectives, and they implicate the nature of recovery, the nature of addiction, and the role of medication, and how that could all work together. Obviously, there are the reasons to support medically assisted treatment. They're part of an evidence-based approach. It's not faith healing. Medications like naltrexone and disulfiram and acamprostay have been...
Acamprosite.
Okay.
That's what I took, a Campril.
They've been clinically shown to reduce cravings and the risk of relapse in individuals with alcohol use disorder and other addictive substances. And it embraces the biopsychosocial model, which is a multidimensional model of addiction. It acknowledges that there's both biological, psychological, and social factors that combine together to create an addictive situation. And from that perspective, medications can address the biological aspect, which help to stabilize the individual while they work on psychological and social recovery stuff.
That was always my feeling about it. And if any of you have been rolling, as it were, in the recovery community the past 10 years, or have been in and out, or have had any interaction with people in recovery, you may have gotten the sense that there's generally a feeling of that using medication-assisted treatment isn't being sober, it's cheating, and you're generally made to feel like you're doing something wrong or have to hide it when we're in 12-step meetings. You see that all the time in books about it. They're on Suboxone, but they don't want to tell their sponsor.
Right, which is weirdly ironic when you consider that the biggest proponents of the disease model of addiction have been 12-step recovery groups. And one would think if you were proposing that addiction is a disease, when a medication comes along that has shown objectively that it is can treat this condition, that you would embrace it rather than toss it off to the side as if it's something that you shouldn't engage with. Medications are harm reduction tools, right? I mean, they make recovery safer. They make it more accessible. They mitigate the risk of overdose. They reduce your withdrawal symptoms. They reduce your craving. They statistically proven to to lower the chance of relapse. So why would you not welcome such things into your recovery toolkit?
It's weird because I got so brainwashed early on in going to 12-step that I had these feelings about using methadone or using naltrexone or Camprol or Suboxone. It was ingrained from the talk I was hearing from the people who had more sobriety, the established members of these groups. Even at the outpatients, and you're dealing with clinicians sometimes who were just basically recovered alcoholics. They weren't like doctors or anything like that. And so I just sort of felt that way. But the more I listened and the more I saw other people using these things, I was like, what's wrong with this? Why can't I use something? I'm not having success. I kept relapsing. And until I was able to convince a doctor, which was also difficult.
Yes.
Suboxone would have probably moved along my recovery much earlier had I not had to scratch, claw, beg, plead, and just to get prescribed this drug. And that's when I started to actually begin to get sober.
Yeah, and you think, okay, well, there's different ways to achieve the goal, right? I mean, if you're a 12-step guy, you can just do the 12-step thing, and if you don't want medication, okay, don't take medication, fine. The problem is when you have 12-step recovery being ubiquitous and being sort of the standard, and when that group comes out against medically assisted treatment, it has ripple effects throughout the scientific community, because studies won't get funded if they don't have the support of the AA community, and with all that propaganda against it, it's less likely to be widely accepted, right? Yeah. Because how many people engage with 12-step recovery as a modality, as their principal modality to recover, right? And that's the problem, because you look at a drug like Ozempic, which we're going to talk about. Ozempic has shown some promise as being a drug that can be utilized to treat addiction, but getting studies funded and having science take a serious look at it is hampered by the fact that the 12-step community is basically against any form of medically assisted treatment.
Yeah, I like to think that it's changing, and from what I hear,
I think it is.
Yeah, well, I don't frequent 12-step meetings anymore, and I'm not really engaging in online communities that are strictly 12-step. And my sense, from what I'm just hearing from different interviews and the things that Dave says on Dopey, because he's a regular AA member, which he's announced on his show. I'm not outing him or anything.
Right.
And it sounds like a lot of groups are being a lot more reasonable in that sense. So a lot of it, but it's still out there, especially when it's baked into NA's doctrines, even antidepressants are considered you're not sober.
Yeah, that's fucking nonsense.
People are dying because they're being told by the only people that are helping them sometimes. A lot of times these people's family and friends have disowned them. They, wander into one of these meetings looking for support, and they have people that, remember, they're in a desperate situation like I was, and you'll listen to sometimes what any of these people say. They're sober, and if they told me, hey, I know your doctor at the rehab is telling you that, you can go on Suboxone and it would really help with your withdrawals. You can't do that. You're not sober if you do that. Muscle up, put the plug in the jug, and all of that tough guy recovery bullshit, which just kills people in the end. Maybe a few small percentage of people in recovery or who have recovered are like really hard line, that kind of thing, but it's very rare. And the average person just lives longer, does better, and has a better chance of succeeding with one of these, doctor-assisted recovery treatment, medications.
Yeah, did you ever try and get into a discussion? I put the word discussion in quotes with someone who is against medically assisted treatment from a traditional 12-step perspective on like Facebook or something. It's almost like you're trying to debate the existence of God with someone.
It's a religion.
There is no reason that comes in there. Meanwhile, the consensus in evidence-based recovery is moving towards like a personalized treatment plan, right? You consider individuals' needs, preferences, circumstances, maybe medication's right for this person, maybe this person doesn't want it, or it's not right for them. But the point is, no one size fits all, and you have to individualize treatment.
Yeah.
To people, and I don't know. Any recovery modality that would deny someone proven medication because it doesn't fit in with a program that was developed in the late 1930s, as a faith healing program, like, just rubs me the wrong way, man.
Yeah, and there's a famous quote from the Big Book which says, "Until such time,
Yes, Bill said that.
It said something like, "There's no drug at this time that can help becoming sober, but until there is, you have to do this. Like, this is the program until there's more scientific support for medications and things like that." And I feel like we're there. A lot of like I said, I had success using medication-assisted treatment, and there's new developments, and one of them is this weight loss drug that everyone has been having some success with losing weight, and people have noticed that it's also curbing their appetite for drugs.
It's interesting how these things work in the body, So Ozempic is a drug. It's a semiglutide, right? And it's marketed under different names, Ozempic, Wegovy, and it was originally developed for the treatment of type 2 diabetes, right? And it's been approved for weight management. At least some of the drugs have. I'm not even sure if Ozempic has. I think Wegovy has been. But people are taking this stuff for weight loss all over the place.
Yeah.
Erin works in Great Neck, which is a fairly wealthy community on the North Shore of Long Island, and she says like half the moms with the kids in the school are on it, and half the teachers are on it too. Like, everybody is on this stuff now.
It's a shot. Is it like a shot pen or?
That's a good question. I
think it's a shot.
I think it is a
sure.
shot. I mean, it's a part of a class of drugs known as GLP-1 receptor agonists. Ooh. And the way it works in the brain and the body is multifaceted, which contributes to its effectiveness in controlling blood sugar levels, promoting weight loss, and potentially impacting addiction treatment. It's a little different from medications like methadone or buprenorphine, which satiate craving by providing a consistent level of a drug similar to the one that you're desiring without the chaos that can prevent people from addiction with living normal lives, right? So when you take those medications like methadone or buprenorphine, you're not impaired, right? You're not high because you become tolerant of the effects of opioids, and your brain receptor is accustomed to receiving a certain level of opioid, and now it's occupied and activated when taking buprenorphine or those medications. So that gives you the chance to get on with your life, and also a 50% chance, a 50% reduction in the risk of dying from an overdose. Now, other medications like naltrexone, they do the opposite. They actually prevent opioid receptor activation. So it's a blocker as opposed to a filler, I guess you would say. So this means that they can interfere with other non-drug related pleasures, like those associated with socializing. So patients, given some studies have shown that patients, if given the choice of a medication like buprenorphine or naltrexone, would prefer the buprenorphine because they satiate your desire rather than reducing pleasure across the board.
Right. When I was reading that article that we're going to do in the news, it reminded me of Vivitrol shot, which was naltrexone. Mm-hmm. And when the brain scientist at the rehab would come and speak about it, which was pretty cool, he talked about how naltrexone, Vivitrol, how it affects, he explained, it was really cool. He explained how craving works, or how he believed from his studies. He's like a research scientist who was basically experimenting on us.
Right.
And he's like, if anyone wants to volunteer for my study. And he explained it in the brain. I'm not going to do it justice, but when you're craving, something is jiggling. It's something in one of the cells that's gelatinous.
Uh-huh.
And he said that what naltrexone Vivitrol does is it stops it, hardens it a little bit.
Oh.
So it doesn't do the shaking and you don't crave things. So I noticed, and many people reported on naltrexone or Vivitrol, that they weren't craving cigarettes. I noticed that I didn't want to smoke as much.
Right.
So it does, it's kind of like what they're saying Ozempic does.
Yeah. But GLP-1 drugs act a little differently because they modulate the motivational dopamine systems, but not in a way that dampens desire overall, which is a little different from naltrexone, which puts a damper on everything.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. So that's amazing.
So so they definitely work on the food pathway. And people who take this for for weight loss, like what they report is that they get up in the morning before they took the drug and they were like obsessed with food. Like, what am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner today? And they're always thinking about food. And then Ozempic like quiets that whole thing down. So then all of a sudden you're not thinking about food. Or if you're eating, you're not like, oh man, this is really good, I want more, or I'm going to go get like a taco after this or something. Like that voice goes away. And where else have we heard a little voice like that, right?
Oh.
Like remember how when you
The Claudia method.
well, it's all like
What was it? The Kandinsky?
no, the you're thinking of the
You take the pill.
Sinclair, the Sinclair.
It reminds me of pharmacological extinction.
Yeah, but it's like that little voice in you that when you wake up in the morning, like, how many drinks am I going to have today? Am I going to have one? Am I going to have two? Is it going to be a bottle? Is it going to be
When can I get it?
So, like, that those may be the same neural pathways. The pathway of thinking about the alcohol and thinking about the food, which is why Ozempic may affect
Interesting.
both of those things.
It's like obsessive thoughts almost. Maybe, tamps down, obsessing over things.
I mean, basically the mechanism that reduces your appetite may also impact the brain's reward-seeking behavior, right? So it would make drug-seeking, alcohol-seeking, and compulsive eating less appealing.
Right, because you're not remembering that reward. And that's the brain, like if you take it, like with the Sinclair method, you take that pill, you have a drink, and then your brain doesn't get that same level of reward.
Right.
So then the next day, you don't have that memory of it. You don't crave it the same way. And it
Now, Sinclair is naltrexone, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder what would happen if you'd sort of swapped naltrexone out for Ozempic in the Sinclair method, like just change the drug around. Because then, in theory, you would still have the pleasure of other things that you like to do and not suffer from the anhedonia that sometimes comes from, taking naltrexone and stuff. So they've done some studies in animals, and one of them was kind of interesting. Did you know that I did not know this until I read it a couple days ago. There is an island in the Caribbean that has a tribe of alcoholic monkeys living on it.
do they smoke too?
That's a good question.
Ride a skateboard? That's amazing.
So apparently they started developing a taste for alcohol by eating like fermented fruit that they found.
Oh, interesting.
But because this is a tourist island, they eventually realized that they could get wasted a lot easier if they stole drinks from tourists.
Yeah, margarita is better than fermented fruit.
So they would steal like Mai Tais and whatever from the tourists that are down there and just have themselves big old monkey parties.
Oh my gosh.
So this is
just like us.
They are just like us, which makes them the perfect population to study for alcohol related things.
Yeah,
so these monkeys like are I don't know if the researchers actually provide them with additional alcohol to sort of standardize the results.
Yeah.
So they're either the luckiest or the unluckiest troop of monkeys that exists in the world. But they did test a precursor to one of these drugs on this tribe of monkeys several years ago, and they found that it did in fact decrease the consumption of alcoholic beverages amongst this troop of monkeys.
And the monkeys got their lives together. They got jobs and they were responsible parents to their kids.
Now they work as bell hops in the hotels on the island.
And what percentage of them became like addiction counselors?
Yeah. But they also did a rat study. Not as much fun as the monkeys, but they found that activating the GLP-1 receptor in rats' brains, which is the receptor that is,
it's my favorite
dealt
receptor
with by this Ozempic, it caused the animals to eat less of a high sugar chow, which they would normally prefer over a less delicious but healthier bland meal when given the option. They also found the same to be true with cocaine. Rats that received a GLP-1 agonist took less cocaine when it was offered. So now they are repeating the experiments in rats addicted to opioids or fentanyl. And
I could never turn down cocaine. I'm glad that they got something.
I could always turn it down if I didn't have a drink in me.
Not me.
I never wanted to use Coke if I wasn't.
Luckily, it was never around.
Yeah. So, very interesting. There's this woman, Patricia Sue Grigson, who's an addiction researcher at Penn State. thinks that drug seeking is driven not only by pleasurable rewards, that's a big part of it, but also by the fear of the bad feelings and physical side effects associated with withdrawal. And the way she sees it, the brain sees the drug as a physiological need, much like the need for food, and the GLP-1 agonists like semiglutides short circuit that association. So that's a different theory about how it works.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they're currently running a clinical trial of a GLP-1 agonist in people receiving treatment for opioid use disorder. And as part of the trial, people will take the medication and they receive messages throughout the day asking them about their cravings and their mood. Self-reported, but so they're expecting the results of that in a few months. And if they show that there's an improvement in cravings, they plan to test the drug in a larger group of people who are using opioids, but who are not in long-term care. And she said, we're desperate to find something that will give people some relief from the cravings, because when you hear people who quit, and this is true in my case and in yours too, like the cravings really get in the way of you trying to do any kind of inner work to untangle what the hell is going on inside your brain that's making you crazy in that way.
And that's the first thing I noticed when I was in these court mandated rehabs and things, or outpatient mostly, is that if I was constantly fighting being sick from withdrawals, or I was constantly just thinking about how to not, like sitting on my hand, sweating, white knuckling it, as they say, I was not really absorbing the things that I was hearing in these seminars and these groups. But once I was able, just exactly how it was presented, like when you're not worried about, getting that next fix because you're not sick and you're not thinking about it, you can focus on getting better.
But that sort of brings you to the potential negatives of these drugs, which for a drug like Ozempic, if you study, all the studies have shown, like in relation to weight loss, if you stop taking it, you will gain all the weight back and more, and that voice will start chattering in your head just as loud as it was before. So people who are studying this stuff for addiction are hopeful that what can happen is you can take this drug for a set period of time until you learn behavior, right?
It's like CBT.
Right, and then you take the drug away, and hopefully the learned behavior and the rewiring that you've done in your brain will be sufficient to overcome the voice that's going to come back when you take the drug away.
Yeah, and I was always, the way I think it's different from weight loss stuff is you have to eat to survive.
Right.
You don't have to drink alcohol to survive. Right. So there should be, once you, let's say 6 months to a year, you're on Ozempic, you're doing the work, you're going to your groups, your 12-step, whatever it is, and then with your doctor, you begin to come off of the Ozempic, but you continue the other activities, and it should, just like it did for me, not Ozempic, but, other drugs for medication-assisted treatment. And then I was like on a different path.
Right.
And so it hasn't come up, even if I drink a non-alcoholic Guinness. I don't care. I could imagine that this Ozempic might work great paired with like a Suboxone. Like imagine if you had a heroin addict to get, so he's not sick, it blocks opiates, and you take Ozempic, and then you're really like, laser focused on your recovery, and,
It's funny you should say that, because when I was doing research, I came across the fact that Ozempic is often prescribed for weight loss in coordination with naltrexone.
Interesting.
Yes.
I actually heard that. My business partner, who likes to take medication, sometimes he's done some of these helpful weight loss, support medications, and one of them was naltrexone, and I was like, you're on what? It was a low level, but they're starting to use the craving killers.
Yeah, if you work them together, apparently it's the problem is, I mean, maybe we could start a business selling larger sized pants to people who come off Ozempic at the end of their treatment, because
just one pair with elastic, something they can stretch.
Because I mean, that's I guess if you're taking Ozempic primarily to help with an addiction, the weight loss is sort of a side benefit that will happen, right? Because that's what it does.
Yeah.
but then if you stop taking it, the weight will come back. You know,
Right.
I guess, I mean, it's better to be sober and fat, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Like people always talk about antidepressants and like they don't want to take it because it's going to make them gain weight.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, it depends. How bad is the depression? Like,
Right.
how bad do you need this? Does it really matter? You know, and when you say I get fat, is that, you know, how fat? Like, is this really like going to ruin your life, or are you in a better spot? And maybe it hasn't conclusively been proven it makes you gain weight anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's the pros and the cons. Like, I think it's worth it. It was worth it for me to take some, you know, side effect risks in order to get sober.
yeah. I mean, something else to consider though is, you know, this stuff may not work for everybody. And I think it has a lot to do with why you are abusing whatever you're abusing in the first
Right.
place.
The underlying issue.
If you are self-medicating with alcohol to deal with social anxiety, then maybe it's not the dopamine reward pathway system that's at work in your addiction, and maybe this would be ineffective. You know,
Well, that's
And
the
it-
thing, and they say that in the article. Like, it doesn't necessarily, you know, everybody's different.
yeah, everybody's different, but you should at least have the ability to go to a doctor who can, in theory, evaluate whether or not you'd be a good candidate for this type of drug.
Yeah.
But right now, nobody, I don't think, is prescribing these drugs for addiction, even as an
doesn't-
off-label use, because
Yeah.
there's just not enough science there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's working its way through the system. I'd really be interested to hear if anybody in our audience has had a doctor suggest that they prescribe Ozempic or another one of these drugs for an addiction-related reason.
Yeah.
Or if you're taking it for a weight-related reason, have you noticed any effect that it's had on your cravings? Because,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there. There's not a ton of science yet. Some of the other things to consider if you're taking this stuff long term are just the regular physical effects of taking a drug for like a decade or 2 decades, whatever. I mean, there have been some reports that link GLP-1 based therapies with an increased risk of pancreatitis, and common side effects are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and constipation. There's some evidence
Just
to
like
suggest
Taco
there-
Bell, you
yeah,
know. diarrhea.
or that's also a symptom
Stomach
of
pain.
drinking too much.
Right.
As well, you know. But I mean, hypoglycemia, thyroid cancer, gallbladder issues. I mean, they're all, you know, potential problems. And can you develop a dependency on this drug? I mean, if the possibility of weight regain after discontinuation of the medication is something that is a guarantee, you may never want to come off this thing, even if it's
Yeah.
affecting your health in other ways, right?
So it's either that forever or vodka in the morning forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, so harm reduction, right? Or
Right.
a hierarchy of harm.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, you know, and every medication has side effects. But as I heard one author say, and I can't remember who, medications don't have side effects. They just have effects. It has an effect,
Right.
right? And what your focus is or what the effect that you really want is sort of immaterial to what else that it'll do for you or do to you. Yeah, so it's one of those things like any medication, you know, you have to weigh the risks. It always depends on, are you a healthy person? What, you know, age are you, you know? And that's why it's important not to buy this from your dealer. You know, part of the problem I noticed with Suboxone and why there was such a visceral reaction to being prescribed it in NA when I was going to NA and AA and rehabs is because they've seen, and probably they did it themselves, they would either sell their Suboxone, people would get Suboxone from these treatment centers,
Right.
then they'd go sell it on the street, and it became like a street drug. But that doesn't mean that if you take it under the care of a doctor and you're doing it responsibly, it can't help. So there was some of conflation there, like people are saying, no, this is a drug, I know, because people abuse it, you know, in jail. It's one of the most popular, from what I hear, you know, easy to smuggle in, or so it does give you a little buzz, but it's like, you know, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
You don't, but, you know, like every other drug, you really need to
That's why it's important to
consult your medical professional, but the medical professional doesn't know enough yet.
Well, that's the other side of this. So there's nothing simple, really. You have to educate yourself, be your own best advocate. Same thing I tell my kids, advocate for yourself. Don't leave it to someone else. You do it.
It certainly is an interesting area that hopefully a lot of further research will be done. And in the pharmaceutical industry, if there's a way to make money from this, they will.
Yeah. That's good. Like, make money on it. If it makes it get out there more, that's the society we live in.
It's already hard to find. Yeah. Even if you just have diabetes, which is what this drug is prescribed for to begin with, you're having trouble locating the stuff. So you can go and buy it on the internet from one of these compounding pharmacies,
Right.
But we would never suggest that anybody self-medicate without consulting a doctor, because this stuff can,
And what if it has fentanyl in it? You get it from China.
Right.
Everything has fentanyl in it.
Well, or just, the side effects, but it has promise, and the fact that it works differently from naltrexone and buprenorphine means it may be a new frontier for addiction treatment,
Yeah, I think so. And there are even articles being written about it.
Yes, there are.
There are.
Some of which will be linked in the show notes.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have a song to play?
Oh.
Recovery in the news. Yeah! All right. Recovery in the news. Recovery in the news. Recovery. Recovery in the news. Motherfucker.
Okay,
I'm trying to make sure I didn't want to get complaints,
Yeah.
You
have to do it. It's like like the Eagles. They got to play Hotel California every fucking show. The article I'm going to talk about has nothing to do with medically assisted treatment.
Wonderful. Keeping people on their toes, making sure they're paying attention.
So this is from the Hastings Tribune. I'm not sure where Hastings is. The Lexington Herald Leader, actually. Lexington, Kentucky. It's from.
Okay, why?
When owners need addiction treatment, this group makes sure their animals stay safe. Their animals stay safe.
So the addicts who are in rehab, their animals are good.
Yes.
Gotcha.
When Laura Helvey met Catherine Gabbard in her yard in the summer of 2023, she was sitting on the ground next to her dog, Bossy, crying. Gabbard was about to disregard her court orders to go to addiction treatment for one simple reason. She couldn't leave Bossy behind. Gabbard was packed and ready to run into the woods with Bossy. Any excuse will do, right? to not go to rehab. The fucking dog. I can't leave the dog. Just so she could stay by her side. Bossy, a pit bull hound mix, of course, was also pregnant. Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, the dysfunction. It's Kentucky. And the only source of constant affection and support Gabbard had for the past couple of years. She helps me if I'm sad. Gabbard told the leader, she feels what I'm feeling. When I'm getting high, she was feeling the trauma for all that too. Can we just have a moment of silence for all the poor, long-suffering dogs that have to live with fucking addicts?
I'm so sorry.
Who never get fed, who what's the Dead song, The Touch of Grey? I know the rent is in arrears. The dog has not been fed in years. It's even worse than it appears. I don't know.
I always, if I'd see like an unhoused person with a dog,
right,
I would always think to myself, that sucks.
For the dog.
For the dog, yeah.
No, for the people too.
But everybody.
You know what? It's a
real problem.
The dogs, when you're an addict, or sometimes the dog is your only friend.
Yeah,
it's your last friend. And so they really are emotional support dogs, like in the true sense of the word.
Yeah.
Do they enable your addiction by being your friend, even though you were falling apart?
I always felt guilty using in front of my dog.
Was he silently judging you, do you think?
I don't know. It's a weird sensation. If I'd grab something, I'd get back to my place, and I'd be, feverishly trying to make the thing, cut it up, do whatever, and then the dog's just sitting there looking at you like, because the dog sees you as like a god,
right.
You're this like shining beacon. It's the love of their life, and here you are, and it doesn't even know, and it's this sense of betray, like I'm betraying this innocent animal. Look at me.
Yes,
that's how I used to think.
You betrayed the innocent animal,
yep.
Who was really like, when's this guy going to stop playing with that fucking powder and fill up my food bowl?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I always felt terrible. Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
was a good dog owner. I just felt bad.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, when I was using and drinking, my cats were the only ones that would hang out with me, and they didn't even like me that much. Anyway,
they never do.
So this woman, I guess, her thing is like her office helps remove barriers for people seeking recovery, and one of the big barriers, or at least certainly one of the things that people articulate as a reason that they don't want to go into rehab, is because they would have to leave their dog. So she has a group called Fostering for Recovery, which will find places that will foster your pet while you are dealing with your addiction in recovery.
That's thoughtful.
Yes. And they will send pictures to you while you're in rehab of your dog doing well in other locations. And, this woman that we were talking about here, her Gabbard, she successfully completed her treatment program and has been reunited with Bossy. And, this started small with only 9 people, but now it's gotten quite big. And I guess people don't look at all that stuff. They're like, just leave your life on hold, go into treatment, just deal with it, right? But some people can't do that. I mean, you have a foster care system for kids, which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So, but why not have one for pets? Anything that removes a barrier to treatment is probably a great thing. And I commend this woman for fostering these pets or starting.
Even if it helps just a little bit, it's just another, like you said, you're lowering the barrier to closing that sale, getting that person in rehab, and caring for that animal. And worst case scenario, the person goes off the rails, leaves the rehab or whatever, which happens a lot.
And that happens.
At least the dog or the cat, or the lizard, or the globus monkey, or the tiger, depending on what you do for a living.
Well,
is taken care of.
Unfortunately, the biggest problem this woman has is actually finding people to become fosters for these animals, because she can't do it herself. She has like 7 or 8 dogs in her house now for people that are in rehab. So if you're interested in becoming a foster for an animal, you can contact Helvey or Morris through the Fostering for Recovery at Morris Run Facebook page. And they also accept donations that you can make through the group's Venmo or GoFundMe, or by purchasing items from their Amazon wish list.
Very good.
I'll throw a link in the show notes. It seems like a worthy cause.
Recovery in the news.
That is indeed.
Yeah. All right. Recovery in the news.
Recovery.
Yeah. Double Shots Tuesday coming at you.
Okay. Do you have something for us?
I'm going to just go for it and hope for the best, okay? Weekend Weird. This is for you, Scott.
This is for you.
It's for you, Scott. Filmmakers reveal alleged alien mummy by Tim Banal. A pair of filmmakers have unveiled what they claim to be the mummified remains of a mysterious being that appears to be not of this world. The remarkable reveal of the humanoid creature seemingly sitting cross-legged was reportedly made by documentarians Serena D.C. and Michael Mazzola, who say that it was found in a Peruvian cave alongside the body of a 9-foot-tall entity.
Wait.
Yes.
A 9-foot-tall entity?
That's what it says.
Like a Bigfoot entity?
Well, there's a few different things it could be. It could be one of these giants that they say existed with red hair and 6 fingers.
Uh-huh.
Or it could be just like
AI generates these days?
Yeah, one of those. So it could be anything as we read on.
This could be the alien Bigfoot connection.
Likening the discovery to finding Jesus' shroud or the Ark of the Covenant.
Wow.
DC stressed that despite their similar appearance, the filmmakers' figures are, quote, very different from the specimen that Jaime, remember I was talking about Jaime?
Yes, I remember Jaime.
This one is different from the one Jaime Maussan famously presented to the Mexican Congress last year. So this is there's just alien mummies all over the place. While the weird bodies had been colloquially dubbed alien mummies due to their otherworldly appearance, the filmmakers actually believe that the creatures could have been denizens of Earth. Quote, "We are not saying we found extraterrestrials," DC explained.
We're not saying
that, please. We believe that we found a new species. Oh. To that end, the pair asserted that Initial scientific testing of the specimens found that their DNA is 30% unknown, with signs that the genetics of the creature had been altered by, quote, 1,000 years ago. Wait, what? The genetics were altered 1,000 years ago?
Wait a minute. So that means 70% are known?
Yes.
So it is a human-alien hybrid.
It could be. Skeptics, however, will undoubtedly dismiss the pair's claims by pointing to similar figures that were seized at a Peruvian airport last year, subsequently found to be dolls fashioned out of animal bones.
Okay.
But these are not dolls. Those were dolls. These are not. In response to the suggestion that their specimens are also fabrications, DC declared that, quote, we know categorically that these beings are not physically constructed by humans. The pair plan to showcase the mysterious mummies later this month at a press conference wherein they will present a scientific analysis of the remains, much like Jaime Maussan did, to the ire and jeering of many.
Well, why are they not going to present this one to the Mexican Congress? Has the Mexican Congress's patience run out?
Yeah, I think the Mexican Congress, once realizing that the schmuck assembled these dolls out of animal bones, has heard enough from the alien mummy finding community.
Speaking of which, I highly recommend Resident Alien. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
I'm so glad you started watching it.
I started watching it, and it reeled me in. It is ridiculous on so many levels.
It's so good.
But
Resident Alien.
And a lot of it, I don't know. A lot of it is just kind of, But there are moments in that show that are just laugh out loud funny. And it's worth waiting through the other stuff to get to it.
It is. And I'm glad you did, because I know it is. It's our kind of humor, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's right up there. So check out Resident Alien. It's a sci-fi show, which didn't traditionally have high quality programming, but sometimes like Battlestar Galactica, they do hit on it once in a while.
Oh, I'm also in the middle of watching. Three Body Problem.
Oh, is that good?
That's fucking fantastic.
No kidding, because I keep threatening to watch it.
Watch it.
And then the other one is Foundation on Apple TV.
I've heard Foundation's good. I've
Excellent.
not watched it.
It's just like super high budget, slow moving plot development. It's good. So those are a couple of good shows. A couple of picks from the dicks at RMA.
Picks from the dicks.
That's us.
Did you come up with that?
Just now.
Seriously?
Yes, I did.
That's going to be we got to do another podcast.
Here are your movie picks from the dicks at RMA. So check it out. Tell us what you think. But I would say, please, guys, please, we need reviews.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. The audience has fallen off, which tends to happen when we don't release episodes.
I'm really sorry. We're trying to make this work out, and lots of interesting things are going on with addiction recovery, politics, and all of that stuff in recovery. So we're going to continue to try and cover it. Join us at patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages. We've got some video episodes. We have a Discord chat. Also, facebook.com, and look for Recovery in the Middle Ages to join us on our addiction recovery support group. And we will look forward to seeing everybody there. We love talking to you guys. We appreciate you. And that about does it for today. I know I had a great time. Did you?
Better than I expected.
Thank you so much for listening. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com. Prepare to be disappointed.
The website actually doesn't work, so don't go there.
Someday. Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and X. So tweet us and X, you twit. Support your favorite show. Drop us a 5-star review, like I said, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Tell a friend, share it. We love you. Help grow the RMA movement. And finally, the best way to help the show is, just as I said, share it with a friend.
You did say that.
If you get something out of our show, please share the love. And as we say,
what do we say?
We
still say that.
Non proficiat perfectum.
Progress, not perfection.
We'll see you next time.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Po Buddies Nerfect.
Right.
See you next time.
I get it.